Welcome to the Future of Structures podcast, where we talk to the experts who are evolving our buildings for tomorrow. And here is your host, Adam Jones.
Hey guys, I just spoke with Belina Raffy. Now she's the CEO at Mafic, which is an improv consultancy, so a very unique job. She's also the author of an upcoming book, so she uses improvisation and combines it with comedy in a very unique way. So it helps people deal with change and see some of the lighter things in the world to, I guess, be more resourceful in finding solutions for certain problems. In our conversation, we go through what is sustainable stand-up and improvisation and how can it help you as an individual, or how can it help an organisation connect with their why. We also go through Thrivability, which is, I guess, learning by nature, and all kinds of biomimicry examples and how they can use it at the city level or at just the individual level. And also the future, what she sees coming, some of her upcoming projects and everything. So she's a very bubbly and bright person, full of positive energy. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to her. I hope you guys enjoy listening, and yes, enjoy the show.
Where I'm from, I'm very globally focused because I grew up moving around. I lived in forests in Mexico and Canada, and the US. I have 2 passports, US and French. I lived in England for a long time, and I've worked globally for quite a long time. I'm based in Berlin now, and I think that impacts my work because I love acting as a bridge of local wisdom.
Yeah.
That is actually universal. When I see, like, oh, they're doing something better here than they are in this other country, maybe they should have a chat. So I'm very geared in my work as kind of a bridge, as part of the thing that I'm doing. And the main stuff I work on is, so I started working in the back office as at a bank, a global bank, and I saw a lot of people burning out. So I did an MBA to relax, and then. As you do. And then I started working with marketing executives, and I thought, oh, I love this holistic door, but I hate the values of it. Yeah. So I started bringing in improvisation as a way to connect people. And instead of delivering death by PowerPoint to develop skills, I decided to seed new ideas about how we, like a theory of leading edge of marketing, whatever it is, but to bring in the improvisation as a way to embody the learning. Yep. And I studied with some of the best performance improvisers on the planet, so that I could again be this bridge of bringing stuff from the theater into business and life.
Cool.
And and then I joined something called the Applied Improvisation Network, and I was on their board of directors for 6 years.
Phenomenal. So you mentioned you started off at a bank, and then were you still as bubbly as you are now, or is this new direction in life you've got now with the stand up and the improv and everything like that? Has that brought out this side of you that's got this full of positive energy?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I think I was probably on the cusp of burning out at the bank a lot. The thing that, so I started doing stand-up and improv in 1995 in New York City as a way to carry on laughing while I was in such a desperate, sort of stressful back office, under-resourced job. And so that seed of liking to create conditions where people laugh, that was already there. But I was definitely not as bubbly as I am now, because I really love, it feels like a lot of the pieces that I love, I've designed my life so I can now do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, phenomenal. And I can imagine that would have been a lot of hard work to get to that point. So can you just tell us a little bit about Mafic at the moment? And as far as I understand, it's a lot about sustainable stand-up and improvisation. Yeah,
so Mafic, I've had Mafic for 10 years. It's as a legal entity is based in England. I'm in the process of moving it over to Germany, where I actually live now. And at the core of everything I do is this applied improvisation stuff. And there's a guy named Robert Poynton who beautifully talked about what are we doing when we improvise. We're letting go, noticing more, using everything. So letting go of ideas or behaviors that aren't serving us in the moment, noticing more about ourselves, our environment, or the people around us, and using everything or using more because you've noticed it in the way that you engage. And I love that model. It's a little triangle model. If I had a tattoo, I would have of that model because I love it so much. And so the three things that Mafic do that kind of are infused. So I do pure applied improvisation, mostly for change. So how do we do the inner and outer game of change, particularly around innovation and sustainable innovation? Because at this point, I'm kind of at the place personally where I don't see much point in doing innovation if it's not addressing the climate or societal or some aspect of the big stuff that's looming for us.
Yeah.
And I use the improv as a way to do that joyfully.
Yeah, nice.
So there's a change co-creation thing. Thank you. That's one piece. There's the piece that you saw a bit more of in the talk, which is how do we align organizations with nature, and that's infused also with improv, and it has more of a structure of. I'd worked with a bunch of biomimicry people, and then I worked with the leading edge visionary lady on Thrivability, and we ran a global piratey playful quest about reimagining organizations if they were aligned with nature and how people thrive. And so I'm using that with companies now, that wisdom. So that's the second one. And then the third one, as you said, is sustainable stand-up. So how do we communicate these heavy things, but infused with kind of love and compassion and playfulness, so that we can really invite people to look at it instead of saying, "Oh, it's so," instead of being judgmental, because I got tired of it. And I'm sorry, I don't feel very articulate. We had our show last night, which was sold out and brilliant, and we partied till quite late. That's
great.
Apologies for being a little less.
No, that's what we like to hear. That's no problem.
But I got a little tired of kind of the "we're enlightened, you're not" approach to sustainability in terms of how they talk about it, and I just wanted a way for one to. I also saw a lot of sustainability people burning out and feeling that they couldn't bring any lightness to their job because of the seriousness of it. And that's a very dangerous space to be. So I wanted to bring a nice form of comedy in there, which is infused with this improv, which is really a compassionate way of connecting and being present, to help that.
Yeah. Love it. So before we get into the high level, so say for the personal level, if someone maybe a bit like you were at a bank back in the day, they're working in a big corporate culture and they really want to make big changes in their work culture and even in the world maybe. So do you see it as like a way of building your personal capacity as just an extra skill set with improvisation, and can you just tell us a little bit about the specific skills someone might get if they try to learn it?
One of the things the reasons I love teaching improvisation skills is that for me they're fractal. So if you and I are in a workshop together on co-creation in the built environment, for example, and I'm doing these activities which are coming from improv that will help you be more present, more connected, more curious in your engagements with other people, able to let go of the judgment thing so often in ideation we bring in judgment way too early. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't get the wide scope of ideas that actually the wider the scope of the initial blast of ideas, the better off we are, because we'll have more to choose from as what we take forward. So it's all of those things. But if we're practicing those, say, for the built environment, what's lovely is those same skills are great for you when you go home to your family and you can be more present with your family members. It's better. It's great for if something unexpected happens in your life and you can notice it. And even up to if you have unprecedented weather happening, you're more likely to notice it just because we've been in a workshop together on co-creation for built environment.
Yeah, phenomenal. I'm absolutely sold, and I'm definitely going to do it now. Yeah, being more present, being able to listen, it just seems like very relevant skills to I guess build your own capacity to be able to contribute in a more meaningful way. That's awesome. So
it's also complementing the analytical skills, because we're so taught, there is one right answer in schools, and if you don't get it spot on what this person wrote, it's wrong. And this is kind of that type of thinking is useful in certain aspects, but really unuseful in others. And particularly now that we really need, as a group, to quickly change how we're doing certain things in logical and response to our environment. This is a way to, how can we together joyfully navigate the unknown instead of being so caught up in fear of it that we are inactive?
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's very, very scary for some people what's coming with documentaries like Inconvenient Truth a while ago. Right. If you look at what's to come, it's very scary. And do you think, coming from a fearful point of view, it breeds inaction or like meaningful solutions?
So in the talk that you saw, I talked about the Elizabeth Kubler Ross change curve or grief curve, and I think kind of the anger bit, is a necessary part, but it's not the sexy bit that's going to pull the people that are currently in denial through it to the joyful side. If that makes sense of accepting and building. And that's why all the stuff that I do with Mafic is, how can we make accepting and building on the reality joyful and interesting and appropriately responsive, instead of just these like tiny, but we're recycling, so aren't we fine? Sort of like, let's expand the scope of what we're looking at, but and not to spin out people and overwhelm them, but just to invite a deeper level of innovation, because that really takes great care of people, of place, of all of that stuff.
Yeah. So what was that curve called again? I forgot the name.
Yeah, it's the woman is Dr. Elizabeth Kubler Ross.
Yeah.
And she has this curve called the grief curve of, when somebody close to us dies, what are the stages that we tend to go through? And like most things in life, it's actually not a linear process, but so the first one is denial. So, that person, I'll see them tomorrow, even though they've passed away, we're in denial. And then we get fearful, and then there's anger, and then bargaining of, and I've also seen a lot of sustainability offers from the bargaining state of like, if we do this, it won't be that bad, but it's not coming from from a calm place, it's coming from a fear space. And I think that limits our creativity and our generousness when we're from the fear space. And so what we're trying to do, the acceptance is kind of the back up, and experimenting is going back up the U once you've processed what's happening.
Cool. So the goal is to get as many people to acceptance and things like sustainable stand-up or viewing things from a lighter point of view is more effective than I'll say just scaring people into it.
I think so. I've met some personalities in the sustainability realm who seem to get energy from the knowledge that we're all going to die, and that's just like I don't want to hang out. I just personally don't want to hang out with those types of people. I don't, and I think it makes it harder when they're coming at it from as we said before, like, we're enlightened and you're not, because that. If you're labeled the not enlightened, it doesn't make it very attractive to join the miserable enlightened people.
Yep.
I'd rather join the enlightened happy people.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So I guess change is coming, whether you're optimistic or you're doomsday Al Gore style. But so how do we best equip ourselves with all this change and being at ease with it and responding to it effectively, do you think?
I mean, part of it is being present and realizing that, we're not being swept away in this moment. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there's something about self-care that I like that improvisation brings in, because part of what you're noticing is, how am I? And I did I gave myself my own master course in applied improvisation a few years ago by letting go of having a home and becoming my home, and then traveling literally all the way around the world teaching applied improv in 12 countries in 3.5 months.
Wow.
And this is what the book is about. That I'm writing at the moment. It's very modestly called "Using Improv to Save the World," and then in parentheses, and me.
Yep.
And basically, so I was teaching all of these activities connected with the let go, notice more, use everything that Robert talked about. And I noticed that I was teaching it for people at a certain level, but I was using it really deeply when I was encountering things like I had 2 earthquakes, call me lucky, and a sandstorm, and civil unrest, and financial difficulties, and all of this stuff while being my own home. And I had lots of gifts happen as well. So I got to experience on a very visceral level how these improv mindsets and practices can help keep you in a good state and help keep you more resilient. When it's reactive, but it's also creative as well. So you can use it when something unexpected happens, but you can also use it to create something in the future with somebody else.
Yeah, phenomenal. Let's take it back to that decision you made. I've never met someone who's been able to do something like that. That's awesome. So you decided you're not going to live in one place. You're going to live your own lifestyle, I guess. So you design your own lifestyle. And right now, do you have a home at the moment?
Yes, I do. I find it would be too tiring. It's just like, where do I put my stuff? It would be too tiring, I think, for me to constantly live like that. So I've lived in Berlin for the last 2 years, and I have this lovely little flat and I feel really connected with place in a way that I've actually never felt before. So I know the local restaurateurs, and I do taiko drumming and all this lovely stuff that connects me with place, and it's a wonderful platform from which to be global still. So, I fly around, and but I think I needed to do that deep improv so that I could up my game in teaching, so that we are doing stuff like I'm here, and we did improv for academics. I did a bit of a workshop yesterday or a few days ago at the University of Melbourne, and I want to be able to still do these workshops, and if something external and big is happening in those places while I'm doing it, I want to be able to have the skill set to increase the scope of what I'm doing to the bigger societal stuff easily, if that makes sense.
Yeah, phenomenal. That's awesome. So moving, I guess, to the organizational kind of stuff and the bigger picture with part of your presentation that I saw had this concept called Thrivability, which is, I guess, is learning by nature. Can you just tell us a little bit about Thrivability?
Sure. So there's a great TEDx talk by Michelle Holliday, and I can send you the link to it. Yeah. And so I've been working in the UK with biomimicry experts and using improv as a way to embody some of that stuff. A lot of the improv is really a good skill set to have when you're working in complex adaptive systems, because it's about short-term taking and noticing what's happening, and noticing even the rules and the assumptions within this system and all of that stuff. Yep. So I'd been doing that, and I'd worked as an associate consultant for something called Biomimicry for Creative Innovation. And we were always looking at biomimicry not from a product perspective, but from a process perspective in organizations. So how can this organization be more like a forest? And then I saw Michelle's talk on Thrivability, and I basically just thought I need to be with this woman. So I was actually going to a conference there, and I thought maybe if I'm lucky I'll have coffee with her, but I was also looking for a sofa to stay on while I was at the sustainability conference, and she said, well, just come and stay at my house. Yeah. And off of the back of hanging out with her, I decided to move to Montreal for a year and work with her, and she has an elegant definition of Thrivability which never sticks in my head. and I know the thrust of it. And so for the Thrivable World Quest, what we did was we made it a bit just a kind of more mainstream, simple language. So we talked about thrivability as the intention and practice of aligning organizations with how nature thrives and how people thrive. So that's the kind of help Belina keep up with the definition. For the masses and Belina, that's the definition we use when we've worked with 14 cities around the world, doing these different playful piratey events on different aspects of organization, and Michelle Holliday also she herself has just come out with a great book on thrivability. So if people are curious about that, I really recommend that they check that out. I'll give you the link to that as well.
Phenomenal. So you mentioned for the personal level and the organisational level, and how an example was like an organisation can be like a forest. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, or maybe another specific example of how biomimicry works at the organisational level or personal level?
And actually, so the reason that we said with how nature thrives and how people thrive, the reason we added the and how people thrive piece to it, which a lot of biomimicry kind of, from what I've seen, misses out, is just that humans have psychology and forests don't. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's there's neuroscience, there's lots of different things coming out about how to create conditions so that people thrive in positive ways. And for me, applied improvisation very much sits in that. So that's why I wanted to bring that in. So the biomimicry piece. So I flashed up a model that was created by Michelle, which was kind of 9 boxes. I don't know if you remember that, and I can send you a link to that too. It's in the Commons now. Yeah. But basically, we're looking at if the forest, has, if you look at it from it's a whole forest, then it's connecting with the rest of the world. In a certain way, it's producing air or producing oxygen. God, I really did party a little bit too much last time. It's producing oxygen. It's producing nutrients in the soil. There's all sorts of interactions from the forest perspective to the rest of the world. From the inside of it, you want it to have very diverse parts, because the more diversity there is, the healthier the forest is. And so if you just take those two aspects of that, and what would the equivalent be for an organization? You want an organization to have to come across as a cohesive whole. So we understand what that particular organization stands for. Yeah. And because like forests don't have heroic causes, or other than kind of let's be alive, which is important in and of itself. But organizations can have like beautiful values that you're like, oh, I'm so happy this organization exists and is doing what it's doing. So we talk about that as a heroic cause. Organizations also have products and services that they provide to the outside world, and then they communicate with the outside world. So what we do is, when we're looking at organizations, is the way that they're doing all 3 of those things: alive, engaging, inspiring, and real. So in the 80s and 90s, there was a whole push towards corporate spin, marketing spin, and now we have like greenwashing stuff. And this is about, is it real? Like are the products really aligned with the values that they're espousing? And I met a really magical man named Tolu, who has a cleaning company called Zenith Cleaners. And what he was doing, unfortunately he passed away a few weeks ago, what he was doing was cleaning what cleaning means. So he would use all eco-friendly cleaning products, and then he understood that there's something magical when you clean things, that you're cleaning almost the energy and the space, particularly if you're cleaning not with toxic chemicals, but with eco-friendly things. So he started having CEOs apprentice with his cleaners for 3 days, and notice what came up for them. And so everything that he was doing with the outside world was in alignment with his heroic cause of, I'm a cleaner, I'm going to clean what cleaning means.
Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. That's I guess the heroic cause is, in some organisations, it's pretty transparent, and say some people at the management level wanted to get everyone in the organisation behind a heroic cause. Do you have any ways, I guess, to bring people along for the ride toward a heroic victory?
Hire me. No, I do have that's one of the things that I do with organizations. So we go in and we talk with the senior managers, and if they love this approach, then we create like an all organization event where we have these different conversations about how is what's going on in the inside of the organization a mirror image of what is being projected out, where's the overlaps, where are the shifts. And so there's like an outer level, an inner level, and also the connecting tissue. So what are the structures and systems that we need in place to be aligned with our heroic cause, for example? Do you know what I mean? Like all of this stuff is a very holistic way. So we can, so it's about holding that conversation and then inviting projects to either have that lens or creating new projects which have that lens and all work together within this holistic approach, so that there's a lot of synergies.
That's phenomenal. I think that's super undervalued, because there would be some organisations out there who just say they've got some cause, or they've got some big why, but they don't maybe have the means of following it. So what you do there is helping them, I guess, find their why and the right projects and everything to connect them with the purpose of their organisation.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it even goes down to like, how do we train people to be masterful in delivering the heroic cause? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it gets really, cool.
Phenomenal. Awesome. So moving to the future now, what you got a book coming out soon. Is there any other upcoming projects for yourself?
I'm just about to fly to Canberra. So we had our sustainable stand-up show last night. It was the first one in Australia, which feels really nice. That was a sold-out show, and so I'm going to fly to Canberra to work with the 10 people that I've been working with so far online to have them do their show in Canberra, which will be lovely as well. And I'm off to Singapore, so I don't know if you have any listeners who are in Singapore, but I'm delivering 3 workshops across August 29th and 30th in Singapore, and then I get to sleep for a little bit in Berlin, and then I'm launching. I have sustainable stand-up that's being launched in London and Berlin in the autumn.
Absolutely phenomenal. So how do they, I guess, is it the website, or how can they find out more about sustainable stand-up and what you've been up to?
So Mafic.com, Mafic means to boisterously celebrate, which is why I chose it. Yeah. And Mafic.com is for kind of the organizational type stuff. If they're specifically interested in sustainable stand-up, that has its own website, sustainablestandup.com.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Belina, for coming on the show. That was awesome. And yeah, wish you the best with the book when it comes out, and look forward to reading it.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too. It means it's done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey guys, Adam here. Just before you go, just one quick request. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a review. It helps our rating and ranking on iTunes, so more people can hear from the people who are making our cities better places for our future.